So welcome. Let's get you on Facebook Live. Let's go live on Facebook, and we can go live on Facebook. Need a title on Facebook. All right, we are live. So I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, prescription for your transformation, real people, real conversations, and real success. And, you know, we all desire to have better lives. And there's so many things out there that we're looking into as to make our lives better. So the question is, why aren't we doing that quickly enough? What seems to be the problem that's holding us back from getting the success, getting the life that we really desire? In my programs, I talk about tapping into your authentic genius, living the life that you desire. And I've really discovered that for the most part, it's really all about the information that you don't have. What it is that you don't know that's going to make the full difference in your life. And so the program here really is all about that. How do we tap into the smart people in the rest of the world and learn from them? And so I'm excited for today as I'm waiting for Carolyn Mall. She is an entrepreneur. She is a master's in holistic nutrition. She's also an author as well as a personal trainer. And so hopefully, as we wait for her, she hopefully will find a way to get signed on as I post in all my areas over here. And so what is it about? I mean, let's think about it for a moment. And Carolyn, if you are there, just go ahead and answer the invite. I sent you an invite, and all you have to do is accept the invite, and then we can get started. So I'll keep on talking. So one of the key things that she talks about, and think about this for a moment, how you do anything is how you do everything. So what does that really mean? And let's dumb it down for a moment, because there are so many things that we do during the day, totally different things, getting up in the morning, getting our breakfast, going to work, getting ready for work, planning our day, all the different things. But there's one common denominator in all of that. And that's one of the things that I'm hoping that I will be talking to Carolyn today. Still waiting for her to sign in and still not signing in. Let me just give her a call. Modern technology for you. Let's see, where is she at?
Hi.
Are you in?
Hi. Well, it says I have accepted. However, it's also telling me to restart my browser because of Chrome.
Are you on Chrome?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and restart, and okay. I'll put some nice music on in the meantime, and we'll wait for you.
Okay.
So technical difficulties, not on my end this time. Oftentimes it is my problem, and fortunately today it's not. So let's talk a little bit about really what is going on. And the truth is that there are so many choices that we have. There's so many different things that we can be doing at any given time. And it's almost like there's a sense of you don't want to miss out. I hear this all the time. People just, today, the social stigma today, the social angst today is about not wanting to miss out. And the problem with that is that as we get, attached to so many different opportunities, and I'm guilty of that too. And unfortunately, or fortunately, however I want to look at it, my astrocartographer informed me that I'm multidimensional, so I have to do everything. So here she is, Carolyn. So glad you made it.
I'm sorry about that. I was like, oh my gosh, call me. Chrome says restart. And you're like, where is she? I'm like, I'm here.
No problem. So that's a good lesson for next time. Make sure that Chrome is properly functioning. But anyhow, I don't know if you heard my introduction. My introduction really was about you and what you're a master at. Introducing once again who Carolyn Mull is. She is the master in holistic nutrition. That middle word is something I absolutely love. Master and nutrition are also great words too. I think we have to master the important things in our life, and nutrition certainly is one of them, but also in a very wholesome and holistic way, in a way that we aren't normally taught, and not many people still today talk about it enough. And so it's exciting for us to hear perhaps more today or in the future, all the things that Carolyn does. But beyond that, being a personal trainer, being an entrepreneur, being an author and a speaker, and somebody that I've been able to enjoy over the last couple of months since I first discovered you on Facebook Live, and all the great content that you get to share. And I love the way that you actually present your talks and how you really interact with people and answer the questions, and you have a really neat following. So today, for the viewers to listen in on, it's really about how we tend to overcomplicate our lives with so many choices, so many things. I was talking about how often it is that we just simply don't want to miss out, and so we end up doing too many things. And honestly, from my perspective, and love to hear your perspective, because the show is really about you and not so much me. But when we look at things in a holistic way, then oftentimes it becomes a lot more simplified. And I think that's some of the things that you're talking about. You mentioned to me, before the show, and this is a concept that I think many people just totally disregard and blow off, but it's so key. How you do anything is how you do everything. What you do in private is also how it shows up in public. And I think a lot of people don't really understand what that really means. And I'd like to hear your perspective, and I'm going to share with you mine quickly, and you let me know if this is correct, because you did mention it. It's really the decision to allocate the appropriate time to the right thing at the right moment. And that's how you really get to do everything as you do anything.
On the same token, I'm not arguing, but it's also hard to know when is the right time to do one thing or another. So people get really wrapped up in, is this right? Is this right? Is this okay? Like they're asking for permission from themselves, from other people. And when you can let go of some of the pressure that you put on yourself to always be right, to always have to show up as somebody who is perfect and knows what they're doing, things get a lot easier. But how you do everything is how you do anything. So if you're going to give it 100% in one area, you're going to give it 100% in all areas. If you're going to show up and half-ass it at one place, you're going to show up and half-ass it in most places. If you're always running late here, you're always running late there. And so that's why I say, like, not only how you do anything is how you do everything, because it becomes habitual, but also you train us to know what to expect. And so that is where what you're saying is how you show up in public is a direct reflection of what you do in private. Like you stated earlier, I've been a personal trainer for over a decade. I've had my master's in nutrition since 2006. And so I have been trained, and in all of my business, the evolution of my business for over a decade, I know what you eat. I know what kind of workouts you do just based on your physiology, right? Because not only for myself, I mean, having been my own lab rat for, over 20 years, and doing all kinds of different, from triathlons and mountain bike races, figure competitions, whatever, you name it, I've done it. I've done every diet under the sun. I've studied Ayurvedic principles. I've studied everything that there is to know about like human potential, right? And so that's the other thing when I say like, oh, I've been in the personal development world for like 20 years. I'm not lying. You know what I mean? Like I've been going to Tony Robbins seminars and things for 20 years. And not only that, but I love people. And it's very, very, and I'm very intuitive. So as a life coach, like I say, I specialize in nutrition, fitness, and relationship coaching, but how you do anything is how you do everything. So how you're showing up in your relationships is also how you're showing up at the gym, is also the time you're taking with your kids. And so when I can work with clients, I get people easily to understand that this behavior pattern here is carrying over into your employees, is carrying over into your children, and your interactions just even with yourself. Like it's everything
Right
up here.
I love it. So you must have a lot of happy clients, obviously, because I think that's a skill set that not many people have, is with all your experience and have that intuition, that instant knowing of where someone's at. Because most of the time, in my opinion, is that people don't know, they don't understand, and that's why they're stuck. And that was my own experience. I also jumped into the Tony Robbins world quite against my own will, as I like to laughingly share. But I was dragged to it, and to my shock, realized that there was so much out there that I didn't know about. Mm-hmm. And that's precisely the reason I have this platform. And that's precisely why, you know, your work is so wonderful, is because you're sharing insights and information and data points, if you will, with people so that they can get that information, make some changes. Mm-hmm. I love it. And that's amazing. So tell us a little bit about, you know, the one thing that you talk about is, you know, how to get that healthy body as well as a healthy relationship. I mean, what are some of your thoughts to get that? Because these are two things that are so important in life, and so many people just fail at it.
And here's what I think it comes down to. And there's one simple word that if your viewers could take away from just this one word, and the word is non-negotiable.
Mm-hmm. I love that word.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
You have to start making things in your life non-negotiable. So some people also talk about this in terms of boundaries. Some people don't understand what boundaries mean. Like people have different definitions in their like lexicon for boundaries, but everybody knows what non-negotiable means. And so when I say that non-negotiable is the word, it means that when you decide that your health is of utmost importance, like you can't take care of everyone else until you take care of yourself. Then you start to actually make different decisions about cooking and exercise once they become non-negotiable. And in the same vein, and you know what? I think everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing. Everybody's supposed to be sweating every day. Everybody's supposed to be eating food that looks like how it grew, cut out the sugar, all these things. But nobody understands that that is simply a function of taking responsibility and making it non-negotiable. You have to put yourself first. Like it's like you put your, oxygen mask on first, and then you can save everyone else. But it goes in the same way, I think, in relationships, in that you have to decide that a relationship that you're in is so valuable that it becomes non-negotiable. And you are going to be vulnerable. You're going to have hard conversations. You're going to compromise. You're going to do whatever it takes to make that relationship viable. And whether that means breathing life back into it, or whether it means trusting someone even when you're scared, it's different in each scenario. But what it comes down to is making that relationship a non-negotiable, where you're going to do what it takes.
So let me ask you this question, because I absolutely respect that word. I think it's so key in having a decisive life. People are scared, with the word of non-negotiable, thinking that it's limiting when it's not. And so my question for you then is that for someone who's not that familiar with that term, or let me rephrase it, doesn't know how to make something non-negotiable, how do you teach your clients? What are the strategies or steps you help them so that they can make things non-negotiable?
Well, then that's a great question. And I think that ultimately what we do is we create a reverse engineering process where, first of all, they have to be able to tell me with clarity what it is that they want.
Right.
And that is the first step. And most people can't do that. Most people have a vague notion that they want to be in love, or they want their kids to be more respectful, or they want to lose some weight or be healthier. But listen, the universe punishes vagueness. The universe rewards specificity. So the first and foremost thing is that we have to get very, very clear. Like, you're my client. I'm going to ask you again and again and again and again until you can give me a very clear representation of what you see in your mind as what it is that you desire. And then we can reverse engineer that process to get down to the nitty gritty of what needs to become non-negotiable in order for that to happen in your life.
So really what you're saying, if I may say it differently, is that you help the client then. You support the client, which I think everyone needs, by the way. These things are sometimes way too difficult to do on your own. To help them realize what's really important, to basically kind of sort of prioritize these different things, and then making that commitment, that public commitment, in essence, to you, right? And the other side of the coin is making that public commitment to you, and you keeping them accountable. Because I know one thing, and we'll talk about this in a moment, about the importance of having a social environment that's supportive. That's key. So share a little bit about, your thoughts on that.
So one of the best examples of that is a research study that Harvard did. This is many, many years ago. And they did a research study on what is the main determining factor on people's success in sustaining weight loss. And so they went through this whole myriad of different factors, and people thought it was diet. Oh, they've got to stick to their diets. No. Oh, they've got to exercise every day. No. The main determinant of success in sustained weight loss is social support. And this goes along with all of those personal development things that you hear about all the time too. Like, you become the sum of the 5 people that you hang around with the most.
Yep.
And so your social scene, right? The people that you invite into your tribe are going to predicate your success in multiple areas of your life. And so when you decide that you want to do something, that you want to take your health and your relationships to the next level, one of the things that I do as a coach is to help you kind of visualize that with extreme clarity, and then figure out very, very honestly who is on your team, who is going to support your vision. Because I will all day long, but I will also hold you accountable, like you were saying.
And the team part is key. And oftentimes people are kind of scared to be vulnerable. And I think what happens then is that they lose out on having that team. And I discovered that myself for years and years. I grew up in 5 different countries, and, uprooted all my friendships each and every time, and then went to a country that wasn't very sociable. I won't mention which country that is. And so I learned how to be very, very independent. And I learned over the years that that's not the best way. And having a group of people that you can absolutely trust, and it's called like a hierarchy of relationships. And I have to credit Steve Linder for this. Brilliant man, strategic brain. If anybody wants to find out more about that, check him out. Steve Linder, strategic brain. But it's really understanding, the importance of the people around you, and actually having rules for them. And so that they can, so you can support them, but they can also support you. But having that strong social network that's going to make sure that you stay in alignment, because there's nothing worse, if you will, when people have this particular expectation of you, and you fail them, and you could possibly lose that connection. And that's one of the things that we don't want to lose.
And that comes down to, in my mind, understanding how to communicate well. And this is something, so most of my clients are men, like, let's be honest. And most of my clients are men. Mostly they're between 35 and 55. I have a couple outliers, but that's the main thing. And one of the things that we work on the most after scheduling, after like the daily non-negotiables are set, is how do you communicate with your teenagers? How do you communicate with your wife so that she can hear you without being defensive? How do you communicate with coworkers, with people, with your subordinates? How do you communicate in a way that people feel seen, heard, and unique? And you also feel effective. So this is something that I talk about with people all day long, along with conscious language choices, like the reel that we have going on.
So explain, how do you communicate?
How do you communicate? Well, give me a specific example.
Well, no, I mean, you said you just mentioned right now
Mm-hmm.
is that you want people to be heard and seen and everything else. So what kind of advice do you give them? I mean, is there a specific strategy that you help them with as to how to communicate? I know men are notoriously bad communicators, I think, and I'll admit that to myself. So what are some of the strategies that you like to share?
And I'm just
say that again. What?
Just admitted it to all of us, actually.
Right.
But it's so, and here's why I think that is because a lot of men don't grow up with role models that are able to teach any sort of vocabulary that has to do with emotions. And so a lot of times where I'll start with my clients is just being able to identify words for emotions other than good, bad, happy, sad.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And so once you start there and you start broadening that vocabulary of how you're going to be able to communicate to people, then you can start, and I mean, seriously, like Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Effective People, like number 5, understand them better than they know themselves before you even start talking, is one of the best words of advice that has ever been given. And it's really true, because when you can start to understand what your wife is asking for, what she's really asking for, then you can actually start to have a conversation about what you're asking for in return. And I tell people there's 4 main categories in relationships that people fall into in a long-term situation. I am not talking about the person you met off of Tinder last night. But when you're engaged in a long-term relationship, typically you want one of 4 things. You want someone to be in your world for one of 4 reasons. And one is to leave a legacy. And for a lot of people, that means children. It means children, trust funds. Maybe you're building a business together. Maybe you're expanding the tribe, the family, right? You're leaving something beyond what you were as individuals. Mm-hmm. A secondary one would be the support model, which is where you've got a job and I've got a job, and they're going to go in 2 different directions. However, at the end of the day, I've got your back and you have mine. And we're going to come back together at the end of the day in support of one another's dreams and goals, because we can see each other in our greatness, right? The third one is the companionship model. And companionship model people are just really stoked to sit on the couch together and hold hands. Whatever they're doing, as long as it's together, is perfect. There's no big pie in the sky dream. It's the simple day-to-day actions of just being together. And then the fourth one is the karma model people. And the karma model people are there for spiritual growth, for emotional attachment. They're going to talk about everything under the sun and dissect it until it bleeds. And so when you are in a relationship, like a karma model person with a legacy model person, if you don't really understand what the other person's intrinsically driven goal is, you have a hard time communicating with them, because the karma model person wants to talk about how it feels and the emotion behind it and the spiritual principles that are driving these actions. And the legacy person is like, none of that matters. At the end of the day, somebody's got the kids to soccer practice. You know what I mean? So when you can understand sort of a framework like that, I'll often give my clients frameworks like that, where they can start to identify who their partner is and what their partner is actually desiring at the end of the day. And if they're not the same, it's not the end of the world. It's just that you constantly then have to communicate and be so sensitive to the other person's take on your actions. And that takes practice.
You know, that's a brilliant perspective. And I know there's many different perspectives out there as to, you know, why people get in relationships, but I like the way that you really sort of categorize it in the sense, because, and again, you know, it's not like one size fits all. I mean, this is just an important aspect of how to approach a relationship. And there's other elements, of course, as well. But the more that we get to understand ourselves, the more that we get to understand who we are. And I love it when Tony Robbins, you know, basically starts, you know, his seminars like, who are you? And the more that we know who we are, as he puts it, the strongest force in human behavioral psychology is remaining consistent with how we define ourselves. And that's why the information that you get to provide is so valuable, so that people have a better understanding. And even if it's not appropriate for someone else it will be, and then they can enhance their relationships. But one thing I do know, or two things I do know for sure, and the first part I'll share with you, also from Tony Robbins, and in the relationship part, as he talks about, you know, one thing, you know, he makes a statement when someone says, well, I did everything and she still left me, or I did everything and he still left me. And the key there is that, yeah, you did everything you thought that person needed, but you didn't do everything that that person really needed. Because the truth is that if you do everything that that person needs, they're never going to leave you. And but one of the most wonderful books that I've ever read is from Harville Hendrix, Get the Love That You Want. And he also has a beautiful communication technology that describes a different part than the part that you described. But I've had that experience. It's called Imago, I-M-A-G-O, and there's Imago therapists all over. And my first experience with that in a workshop was almost like a spiritual communion. It was so wonderful. It was so complete. I was able to understand fully, you know, my partner, and that partner was able to fully understand me. And it created that safe space to be able to explore exactly what you talk about, is those emotions. And even if you don't know the word at that very moment, you will feel that emotion, because you've got the time and the space and the technique, if you will, to be vulnerable and to play it out. Because you're right, you know, it's interesting when people say, well, my relationship failed because of communication, and they say it with such a blasé attitude. They actually have no idea what they said. They're absolutely right. It's because they really don't know how to even communicate with themselves. So you're spot on, and I love you know, what you're talking about. So last thing that you know, I do want to talk about, because we could go on forever. There's so many things that you and I can talk, and I know for sure we'll be doing this again. And this is a challenge that I have sometimes, and I like what you said earlier on, and how you sort of corrected what I was saying when I said the right time. For me, the right time is all the time, and it's sort of like what you were saying earlier. I mean, it's not something well defined by somebody else. All the time is the right time. So what's the right time to exercise?
Okay, great. Great question. People always want to know that. You can pick up any Men's Health magazine, and every single month it'll be different, because in my mind, the answer to that is, when's the best time to exercise? Answer, when you will exercise. And so there are some people who have to get up in the morning and get it done, because they will not exercise when they're tired at the end of the day. There are some people who get up in the morning and just cannot make themselves get to the gym. But after work, it's a great time to blow off steam. There are some people who can take a 2-hour lunch break. Awesome. Exercise in the middle of the day. You'll have plenty of energy for the rest of the day. So the thing is, when is the right time? The right time is the time that you will actually take to make it a non-negotiable in your life.
Exactly. I love it. So with that, I'm very grateful to be talking to you today, Carolyn.
Yeah, this is fun.
I love your Facebook talks. This has been delightful for me as well. Tons of great information. Hoping that many people will get a lot out of this. So if somebody's looking out for you and wants to connect with you and get your amazing coaching, how do they find you?
So, well, like you said, I am on Facebook a lot, like every day. So you can find me I have a business page, which is carolynmall.com. And then my personal page, Carolyn Mall, you'll see me there. This is really easy, guys. My website is carolynmall.com. You can email me at carolyn@carolynmall.com. I've been in this game so long. I have my name on everything: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, right. You name it. It's just me. And so send me a private message via Facebook, friend me on Facebook, email me. I actually even have a website that my assistant has been so kind to redirect to meetwithcarolyn.com, nice. Where if people want to actually, who've listened to this, if people want to talk to me on the phone, one-on-one, and I will give you a free 30-minute laser-focused coaching session on any of the topics that we've covered today. You just have to either private message me on Facebook, email me, or go to meetwithcarolyn.com, and you can schedule yourself into my calendar, and we can have a chat for half an hour. And I promise you, by the time that we're done, you will have had like a total aha breakthrough moment, because it's easy for me to reflect back to what you're saying to me with words that you're going to be able to hear, and we'll be able to get
Love
you
it.
on. Mm-hmm.
Love it. And then there's other 2 links that we're going to add, and those 2 links are what?
Yeah, so what I wanted to do for all of Bart's followers and for anybody who watches this is to give you guys 2 gifts today, which will hopefully help you. The first one is 5 ways to address adrenal fatigue. So we didn't really go into like hormones and stress and stuff here today, but it is a big reason why people aren't reaching their physical goals, and it's a big reason why people get sick. It's a big reason why you feel tired. So adrenal fatigue is a thing. So I made a very short PDF that explains a little bit of anatomy and adrenal glands and what that all is. So you can have that for free. And then also I made, because like I said earlier, most of my clients are men. I created this journaling guide because men also are like, dude, all of the most successful people in the world get up in the morning and write. They journal.
Yep.
Yeah. And so and a lot of my clients are like, what do I say? So what I did is I made a guide, and there's 10 steps and there's 5 criteria, and you can have a framework and a process, and it helps to get the ball rolling there's 10 different life areas. So it's called the Gentleman's Guide to Journaling. And I've given a link to that as well if you want to start to journal effectively in the morning to reach your goals in all areas of your life.
Awesome. Yeah. Beautiful gifts. Thank you so much. And I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, Prescription for Your Transformation, real people, real conversations, real success. Bring to you new voices like Carolyn's here with new solutions, new insights, really to be able to tap into your authentic genius, because we're all geniuses. According to Einstein, we just are different in so many different ways. And we've got these talents that we're just not manifesting at the level that we can. And so finding out what we don't know so that we can have healthier bodies, healthy relationships, new perspectives, new strategies, just like, Carolyn was sharing earlier, how you do anything is how you do everything, really matters and makes a difference. Carolyn, thank you so much. God bless. And we will be talking more, and I will be back tomorrow. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Bart.